let's talk about galleries. And when I'm saying galleries, I'm talking about commercial galleries. So these are galleries that are either, representing artists and or showing artists' work that's for sale. So when you're looking for galleries, if that's something you're interested in, and to your point, I think a lot of people are eschewing that now. I've noticed that a number of artists are not that interested in being represented by galleries. And I think there are a lot of galleries that are out there now that aren't really representing artists. They're just like showing artists' work, but they're not necessarily like taking on a roster of artists that they represent specifically. That seems to be a trend that I'm seeing. So, if you are interested in working with galleries, like I said, you've got to build these relationships. You have to start small. You have to be authentic with it. You can't go in asking for things. But even beyond all that, I think, you really need to do your homework in terms of like which galleries make sense for your work. And it might be tempting to find a gallery who's showing artists' work that kind of feels like it's in the same vein as yours, that they're showing a lot of the same medium as you, or there's some sort of like aesthetic affinity with your work, and you're like, oh, well, they clearly get me because this is like the kind of stuff that I'm making. This would be a great home and a great fit. But that's not always the case, because if they're already showing all these artists who are making, ceramic lobsters, you don't want to be another ceramic lobster artist who's at that gallery, because then they're all, the people who are interested in ceramic lobsters, like you've got like too many people who are making very similar things, and it's hard to distinguish yourself within that roster at a gallery. So I think it's really important to kind of look for broader kind of like conceptual affinities, or like just, a lot of it I think is kind of intuitive. It's like a feeling where you can sort of see like, okay, this gallerist is working with artists who are thinking about things in this way, and there's an approach to it that I can kind of run a through line. I can kind of see through this, this connection through all of their artists that resonates with me. That sort of thing, that's like kind of your sweet spot, where you're not making work that looks so much like other people on the roster that it's all going to get lost in a jumble. But you're not trying to pursue a gallery that doesn't understand the kind of work you're making, and it's not going to be the right fit. So I think that's like to me, like the most important thing to keep in mind as you're kind of looking for potential galleries to work with. Do you guys have gallery questions? Anything you want to talk about with that? Yeah. There are a lot of different ways that these relationships with galleries can kind of play out. Not all galleries even offer contracts, which I also don't care for. I would encourage you to get a contract with a gallery. It doesn't matter if they're representing you or not. If they're showing your work and they're selling your work, you should have a document. It doesn't even matter if it's one page that tells exactly what their responsibilities are and what your responsibilities are. And if they do not do contracts, I would think twice, to be honest. I hope galleries don't watch this. They're all going to hate me. Sorry, guys. It's my opinion. Not all galleries that you're going to sign contracts with are going to require exclusivity or even representation. They may just, be interested in your work, like your work, think they can sell it, have collectors in mind who might be interested, and they want to try it out. And so they put some work in a group show, or they, give you a solo show if you're lucky. And then, maybe from there they would eventually want to represent you. That's sort of the path that you normally see. But more and more galleries, like I was saying, aren't even representing people. And a lot of galleries don't require exclusivity. And I think it's honestly, for the most part, to their benefit to not do so, because when an artist has more than one gallery and everyone, in different parts of the country, I don't know that having 2 galleries in one city makes a ton of sense. In a city like Dallas, I think that could be complicated. But if you have multiple galleries in different places, to me, it kind of benefits everyone, because then you're getting your work, your artist's work in front of more people. You're just expanding potential opportunities. Do you know what I mean? But I think, it's really important to think through these things that you're talking about in terms of do I want to sign an exclusive contract with a gallery? And, for whatever period. I mean, presumably there's a period to the contract if it's a year or 2 years or whatever. But how is that? Is that going to be limiting to you? Or is this gallery really going to harness their energy and put it into developing your career and really selling your work, building your collector base, trying to get you institutional shows or placements, all of that kind of stuff that goes along with it. But I think it's just really important to be super aware of and ask questions, be clear, get clarity on what they're offering you, what they're not offering you, what they're expecting, what they require of you, all of those things. It's so much better to know up front. I know it's hard. Reading contracts is a nightmare. I hate it too. But it really is. It's so, so important to get clarity. Even if it's an email, even if they're not super into the idea of contracts, but just expectations. How is the pricing structured? Who makes those decisions? What's the percentage breakdown between the two of you? What happens if there's a discount? Who's eating that cost? Is it split? Is it you? Is it the gallery? What if you have really high fabrication costs? Depending on what kind of work you make, that's a huge factor. If it costs you $15,000 to make a $25,000 artwork, is the gallery gonna help you cover some of those costs? Or can you get reimbursed, at least in part, before you guys split whatever's left? These are all questions that you should be thinking about when you're talking with galleries about what your relationship would be.